So, I was supposed to meet up with Buddy today so we could shoot this vlog. But, we both slept in. I am going to Buddy right now. Should I just open it? Is it locked?
It's locked, so you have to use your baritone voice.
Open the door! It's the pizza you ordered. It's got does he like pineapples on his?
Not usually.
It's got bacon on it. Lots and lots of, you know, what else? What do we like?
It's got bacon, ham.
It's got bacon and ham and all sorts of stuff. Give me a hug, dude. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. You're so tall and muscly. I can feel your muscles. Dude, look at you. Come on, come into the light where I can see you. You're so tall. You're taller than me. He's taller than I am. You gotta.
All right.
Hey, you're taller than I am.
This automatic focus now.
Oh, look at him. Look how tall he is.
I was born at Holy Cross Hospital in 1998. My earliest memory is from when I was about 4, moving into my second house I lived in.
I was born on January 11th, 1999 at Pennsylvania Hospital. Apparently, I started trying to talk, and they were like, whoa, he can talk. But I couldn't talk. My mom has always been super strong, and she's always kind of had it rough with jobs and housing and stuff, but she always made sure that we had a place to be. My first memory is of living in an apartment building on Colesville Road and cars, making forts out of cars. My first memory is making car forts, making forts out of chairs and couches and stuff, and sitting in front of TV and watching cartoons like PBS Kids, Dragon Tales, those kind of cartoons. But when they would go off, the news would come on, so I have to watch That 70s Show and Friends. Normal 4-year-old stuff. Where did you first go to school? What was the first school you got into?
Sligo Creek. I was a very hyperactive, terrible student, and made no friends at all. I was very standoffish until I repeated kindergarten. Met you, Ramu, who's my one friend for that year.
When I was 4, I got into elementary school a little bit early, and I went to Sligo Creek. And I remember I was super shy. I was that kid who stood behind his mom's leg when he was introduced to the teacher. And when they sent me off, I kind of looked around and I was like, who am I gonna meet, And I see this kid, and he's got this SpongeBob cowboy folder and a mustache. A kid in kindergarten, he's got a mustache. I'm like, I'm sitting next to that guy. And immediately we're best friends. Both in French immersion, and that's kind of cool. And then around 2005, we had what I like to call the Nomad Saga. It was 2005 to 2010. My mom didn't really like the fact that we had to move so much, but I always kind of liked it. It made me feel like a nomad, like I was this great world traveler, I lived in PA with my cousins, lived in Gaithersburg, lived in Baltimore County for a little bit, Pikesville. I went to Kinwood Elementary, Flower Hill Elementary, Randallstown Elementary, and just generally had a really good time. I loved being with people, and I loved roller skating, rollerblading, and riding on, scooters. I loved riding on scooters. We would have our razors, and we would go down to the water ice stand and just have fun and stuff.
About 2nd grade, you moved away, and we remained friends. And starting in 5th grade,
I remember hearing about the one time when you ran away from school. How did that happen? Like, break that down real quick.
Alright, so during nap time, while the teacher had her back turned, I rolled up my nap pad thing and just left the classroom and then walked down the hallway and walked out of the building. And then I walked to Barnes & Noble and stole a comic book and began walking home. It's like 2 miles to my house. I was stopped a few times by adults worried about this small kid, walking down the highway during school hours. Whenever they approached me, I would just yell, "Stranger danger, why are you trying to touch me?" Which sent them off quickly.
Yeah.
In 6th grade, I made a group of friends. I got pretty close with all of them, and that was new for me. It was good for me. And I knew them into high school.
Even though I moved all the time, we would always make sure that, like, on Halloween, we would be together and go trick-or-treating. That was always, like, our day to do stuff. I remember there was that one Halloween where, we had stopped. We were on the way back to Buddy's house, and we stopped to just, like, take a breather, and these random guys from, like, his school, your school, they, like, came up, and they were like, "Hey, William!" And you were like, "Oh, God, not these guys." And they were just walking towards us, and you stood up, and they kept walking. And then I stood up. They took one look at me, stopped, and turned, and just ran away. I was kind of tall when we were kids, I guess. That was hilarious. We'd always make sure that, like, when we hung out, we would watch, like, movies and stuff. On our birthdays, we would go to see movies with, like, our friends. That was always really cool. When I lived in Pikesville, I went to a magnet school called Sudbrook Magnet Middle School. And that's where I learned to draw what I see and not, like, what I thought that I saw. And that sort of just gave me my base of, like, actual good drawing. I got into One Piece, When I first saw One Piece, I looked at it and I was like, this is, like, the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, what the heck?
Yo, took a bite of gum gum.
Yeah, a bite of gum gum? Like, what is this trash, But then later, I got volume 23 of One Piece, and I was like, oh, dang, this is actually kind of cool. And I really got into it, and I showed you, and that was really, you were like, same impression at first, like, this is dumb, But then we both gradually kind of got into it, and that was really awesome. I started getting into Japanese culture through, like, One Piece, and just kind of took off from there. And then between 2011 and 2013, that's what I like to call the Return Saga, because I came back to the DMV area. At this point, I kind of considered it my hometown, because that's, like, where my first memories were. And I was supposed to go to SSI, Silver Spring International, which was the middle school that was fed into from Sligo Creek Elementary, but they were like, yeah, kind of late in the year, so come back in, like, 2 weeks, we'll get you. They never got back to us. So I kind of just stayed at Sligo, which was actually pretty great because I really loved it there. People were really nice to me. I really liked the classes I was taking, like theater and chorus, and I made all sorts of friends. This is where I met Lucy, who became, like, one of my best friends, and her family, and they are super awesome. And 7th grade was just really great. I started running, and my life was just going really good. And then 8th grade hit, and it was pretty awful, It just took a huge turn. I mean, it was good at first because I was captain of the cross-country team for a while, but then everything just kind of went bad. My grades were really bad. Lucy left for 6 months. But my head was just not in a good place, and I just wasn't really a fan of anything. Wasn't a fan of life, really. So that kind of sucked for a while. Towards the end of 8th grade, my art teacher was like, hey, there's this awesome art thing and for high schoolers called the VAC at Albert Einstein High School. And I was like, okay, well, Lucy's going to Albert Einstein, I might as well go too. And I did. And this is where we enter the glory days. I call them the glory days because really it was anything but glorious.
High school was odd for me. I have a lot of regrets about it. I feel like I wasted my adolescence basically, but I missed half of high school. I dropped out after 10th grade and got a GED. And I was just sort of depressed and directionless for a year and a half.
Did you say erectionless?
Directionless.
I thought you said erectionless.
I don't know. Am I supposed to monologue?
Yeah,
These points. I'm just not really feeling it. I don't know.
Yeah. it was an interesting time. It was at once really awesome and kind of lame at the same time. I can really break down high school into 4 basic parts: community, VAC, extracurriculars, and girls, right? Community, basically, the people you knew were your teachers, the people who were in your classes, and maybe some faculty members that you ran into. I was the one kid that everybody knew, basically, because it's like I talk a lot to everybody. So I knew teachers, I knew faculty, custodians, lunch ladies, everybody, you know. I finally got to start taking Japanese, which was amazing. I got an amazing Japanese teacher, and it was just like a dream, you know, learning about Japanese culture and language. That was awesome. Extracurriculars, those were really great because I started a club for studying Japanese. I took over this thing called Souls of Einstein, which was basically Humans of New York for my high school. I was the comic strip artist for the school newspaper, and I started doing track and cross country, which was amazing because apparently I was actually kind of good at running. I started running in a track club over the summer, went to the Junior Olympics a few times, and that was pretty great. The VAC, the Visual Arts Center, is basically just like a fine arts program condensed into a high school setting. So it was basically its own little world. We had 2 really amazing art teachers who were kind of like the center of the community, and everything sort of just revolved around building art portfolios and making us better artists, essentially. Girls, I don't really want to get too far into that. Girls were always really prevalent. I had a crush on the Big L in middle school that kind of followed me from middle school into high school. And it was kind of like an anime where, like, I would have a different love interest basically every other month. And it was really weird. That's all I'll say on to that. Glory Days Part 2, basically just senior year, because senior year was kind of really different from the rest of high school in that it was just like, it was my last year in K through 12. Like, in 5th grade, I was like, 12th grade, that's 100 years away, and now I'm suddenly in 12th grade, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life, really? Like, I've had all these opportunities in high school, and basically, I haven't really done anything. You know, it was a mixed bag of things being really good, and at the same time being really bad. I had been taking Japanese for like 4 years now, and I was at the bottom of my class. After 3 years of track, that was awesome. I finally did like a whole season of cross country and went to states, but 5Ks, that's not my race. My race was the 800. You know, my goal was always to break the school record for the intermeter race, which was 1 minute and 55 seconds, but I hadn't even broken 2, and it was my last year of high school.
The thing about knowing everybody is that you don't really know anyone. I felt like I didn't really have any super close connection with any one person. That always made me think back to Buddy and how close we used to be and how things had really tapered off. It just wasn't the best situation. And then the Japan trip happened. This was the single greatest trip I could have ever imagined. It was amazing. I left the country for the first time. I got to go be in Japan for a week with my Japanese class and my teacher. And it was just so amazing. I loved being in the culture and speaking the language and getting to see all these just amazing things I'd never seen before, and it was just great. When I was in Japan, I felt like I was living my life the way I really wanted to live it. I was running every day, I was eating really well, I was speaking Japanese. Things were just good. And I thought, man, if I could just do this back at home, then it'd be over. I'd be I'd be doing great. But we got back to the States, and things were pretty much the same. Nothing really changed. June 1st hits, and I graduate high school. Didn't break the record. Japanese was still pretty weak. Didn't take the AP Art exam, and I left high school feeling like I was just unfulfilled. Like, there were just so many things I just never did. I was supposed to get a job over the summer, but instead I spent most of the summer working on the Malone rap music video and watching YouTube videos. I first heard about the Vlogbrothers in AP World when I was watching Crash Course, and that's how I got into their videos, and I saw that they did this Brotherhood 2.0 thing, and I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. Like, I could probably do a similar thing with Buddy. And we went to a Barnes & Noble, and I sat with him, and I was like, dude, listen, you and I, we're about to go through so many different things. We're not kids anymore. we're going into our adult lives, and everything's gonna change. But the one thing that I refuse to let change is our brotherhood. You and me, we're boys, you know, ride or die, bad boys for life. You know what I'm saying? I don't want us to lose touch, and I think doing this vlog thing will help us sort of bridge this void that's formed between us. And he was like, yeah, dude, let's totally do it. To be honest, I don't really know if it's gonna be amazing or not so amazing, but I'm gonna try and make it as amazing as possible. We're just living our lives out here, honestly. And just seeing where it goes. I guess to wrap this up, it's just, I've always thought YouTube was really cool, and if it can help me with my relationship with my brother and help us both to learn a couple things along the way, that's all that really matters, really. It's January 1st, and the vlog starts now, buddy. Baton passes to you, bro. Peace!
Okay, why did I start like that? Audio test 1 2 6.
P.
P and poop. Maturity.
That's pretty epically hilarious.